onions are in season. So imagine you have gone to the market and you've had yourself a good deal of onions. You bring them home and about a week or two later, you realize that your onions are spoiling and some are getting rotten. That's frustrating, right? Well, welcome to Home Tips with Mira. In today's episode, we are going to look at how to store your onions now that they are in season, storing it in such a way that can last you all year round. So please stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. When you get your onions from the market, please start sorting them out because some of the onions could be soft, some of them could be wet, others, could be near rotting. Everything will be packed up for you. So when you bring it home, you sort it out. So I'm going to start with the sorting out. You see that the skin is a bit like paper. When you are rubbing it, you can hear the sound. It's like paper. And then when you press the bottom here, it's so hard. When you press here and it's a bit soft, it's an indication that the onion might be, close to getting rotten. So that one, you have to cut it and use it instantly. You don't have to store it because if you store it, the probability that it will spoil is very high. On the outside, this part of it looks so fresh, but when you turn it, you can see that here, the stem area is very soft. So this is something that has to be used immediately. The first method I want to share with you is a dry storage method. So you store your fresh onions in a wooden box like this, or a basket, a plastic basket, or even a laundry basket because it has perforations around it, and this is going to allow for air to circulate around the onions. For mine, I'm just storing it in this box. It's so small, but that's where I'm going to store them. The first thing I'll do is to lining the base with tissue. This will help to absorb moisture from the onions. So let's put our tissue there. Now that I've put the tissue at the base, I'm going to line my onions up in the box. So like I said, I have different sizes of onions. I have big, small, medium sized because I might use them for different purposes. Okay, now I have my onions. So this onion, you are going to keep it in a cool and a dry place. Well, from time to time, you can just bring it out from the cool and dry place and keep it in the sun so that the sun can shine on it a bit. But too much exposure to sunlight can even cause the onions to start shooting, germinating. And another thing too is that you keep these onions from potatoes because potatoes are known to emit a certain kind of gas that causes the onions to spoil very fast. But here is the twist. There are certain things, or I should say something that you can also use to help your onions to last longer, and that is lime. So when you have your basket full of onions or your onions are in your box, you just, top them up or place the limes around them. They also emit a certain kind of gas that does not make the onions spoil fast. Interesting, right? Yes. And when you store your onions like this, given the favorable conditions, they can last even up to 6 months. So that's our first tip for storing our onions. Another tip that I'm going to do with my whole onions, which I can use for my soup, is that I'm going to peel them, wash them, and then I'll keep them in a Ziploc bag and keep it in the freezer. And this can even last for up to a year, given the right conditions. If you don't want to cry because of the sulfur that will irritate your eyes, what you can do is to cut the onions in an airy place. So you can cut it, if you are in your kitchen, you can cut it under your fan, or you can go and sit under a tree and cut the onions so that the air, can diffuse the gas and it won't irritate your eyes. People with irritable bowel syndrome cannot tolerate onion. Once too much of it gets into their system, they get gas or they feel, bloated. So anytime you eat onion, please listen to your body. Is it that when you eat it, you feel gassed or you feel bloated. If that is the case, you have to minimize its intake. Please, when you are done peeling your onions, don't throw the peels away. What I do is I put them in my garden and they help to enrich the soil. Some people also use the onion peels, as dye. They use it as natural dye. I haven't tried that before, so I don't know how that works, but I know per research that some people use it as dye. The next step is to chop up your onions or cut them into desired sizes and shapes and pack everything into Ziploc bags and put them in the freezer. Look into my hand. This is toothpaste. When you work with onions, the aroma gets stuck on your hands. So this toothpaste, I'm just going to rub it around my hands and then I'll wash my hands, and the flavor and aroma and the sulfur, everything will just vanish. Here's a tip I also want to share with you. So in using your whole onions, you see this part, you can actually put a knife there and turn it around and scoop that part. But if you are using it for soup, don't remove this part, just put your onion into the soup like that, because if you remove this part, you see that the onions will then be dancing, everything will remove and will be dancing in the soup. But when you keep it there, it keeps the onion whole in your soup, and then when you are removing it, you can remove it whole like that. Onions are rich in vitamins, fiber and potassium, and they are so good for you. Alright, so these are the ways that I preserve my onions in the freezer. Either whole, you pick one and goes into your soup, or two, depending on the quantity that you want, or chopped bigger chunks or slices, and I have kept them in this bigger Ziploc bags. They are going straight into the freezer, and these ones too are chopped, but I've packed them in smaller Ziploc bags. So if you don't have Ziploc bags, you can also chop them and keep them in airtight containers. Airtight, it should be airtight, because you don't want to leave your onions opened in the freezer for all sort of things to settle on the onions before you even use it. So they should be airtight. And I believe that you are going to make use of these home tips. Another thing that you can also do with your onions is to dehydrate them if you have a dehydrator at home, or you can oven dry them and then you grind them into onion powder. So preferably you can also add ginger or garlic, dry them together and blend them together. And anytime you are cooking your soup, your stew, you can just scoop some onion powder flavored with ginger and garlic, and then you add it into your dishes and they will add amazing taste to your meals. In fact, I love onions because they make my meals so tasty and yummy. And I know you love them too. Thank you so much for sticking and staying. I believe you have learned a lot, and like I'm saying, onions are in season. So when you go to the market, if you have 50 cedis, grab some. 100 cedis, grab some. And before you realize, you have onions to use throughout the whole year, and you don't have to buy single onion for 10 cedis. Anyway, so thank you so much. Go on my YouTube page and please subscribe if you haven't done so, and also follow me on Facebook, Home Tips with Mira. Until I come your way again, please take very good care of yourself, because that is all you have. Bye-bye.